Hello, dear United States of America, and dear species, nature or volume. We have means to instant release, to claim, to agree, to instant agreements, to claim a bottom um, built as an infrastructure to be a nervous system, a counter nervous system first. But first, we have to set it up. But to be a nervous system in relationship to when we're not valuing individual rights first in sequence, simultaneously with states and nations' rights. But when it's not individual first, then we don't have science. Because when this trinity, what is individual grouped and species, nature, or volume distinctly and non-distinctly, this is semi-nature, also has complete nature. So this active quality of fact treatment nature we have in relationship to all physical value treatments. We have identity value treatment, or its actual course, styles of liars only allowed heard, and that's maintained intersciences, all victims of what forgiveness is about, because all making opinions not as science, as knowledge of the science is the most used to like, for example, to get over the simple correlation with our founders' stolen identities forced in layers into databases with everyone, natives A through Z. This is a database racketeering method since before modern founders were born. It was a whole bunch of nations here who colonized Connecticut, really. Oh, no, it's England. Yeah, it was England, but the name, that was one nation, a whole bunch of nations. And so this is by making them play that, they had standing extortion of any leader, of all positions, states, and areas, all styles of liars. Then you need to react to only allowed negative value nature, progressions, acts, and natures as roles with and as impositions to each person. And see, that's self-valued now, because now these are systems tactically ulterior from the one that is, which reveals fruits and gifts of the identity of relationships of all things to themselves at once, the value of that and the worth of that. And this is about positive. And so this is about five semi natures of positive, distinctly and non distinctly as a semi nature, with three distinctly and non distinctly, for example, distinctly and non distinctly from the other two, distinct and non distinct from themselves, as we'll examine as sequence true, as a order to the finite true, not denying exceptions. The order to the active true, not denying exceptions. No, the value of it actually, this actual identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that. The Trinity's actual value per science, per what is the beginning of the Old Testament, saying that all you have to understand is this about here, about where they're communicating that the science is sharing this identity. Alpha and Omega is in demonstration of what yin yang is, distinctly and non distinctly, because yin yang cannot be separated. And all exceptions from that are only in demonstration of it. So you can separate alpha, but you're all automatically that this is where this is again, and how invisible but still discernible, not just what we're talking about, but the relationship to this nature of volume that has predicate subject relationship to itself, which is identity. And its identity of relationship to all parts of space nature. Again, from bigger than space nature, because it generated space nature as a semi nature. Again, as its semi nature two ways, one identity of value, increasing nature of volume. So yin yang cannot part, because that's how it's self generating. It is the picture of it. And it goes with alpha and omega. There were proofs that the ancients revealed English together in ancient times before semi-ancient criminal re-engineering of what the species revealed together, which was the republic for which we stand. So all we have to do is make this agreement and then make pantheism about this, about the identity and demonstration to the many nations of our species, nature, or volume, individually grouped and together. So with that, we could see when it's simultaneously, we're supposed to understand. That's why we're supposed to, when we know when it's simultaneous, because it's value to each individual. Say there are patterns in relationship to, for example, behavior that is bad. Those patterns are being maintained because those behaviors are being used for racketeering, where they're attached, where they have innocent people and all victim predators. Originally and still overt criminal enterprises juxtaposed with the original one before modern nations. All roles, victims, reacting, they knew they could make the phenomenon of semi-ancient nations of modern nations, blaming, needing to react to predicate acts, needing to react to mass criminal insidious nature's mass caused by nature itself, because they forced, tactically degraded, tactically degraded the value of education, of the long words of our species, the understanding of that and how this identity reveals the fruits and gifts of evolution per its identity of relationship to itself as science, which is about at all everywhere, everything. The science is sharing identity. You can't part things. We have subjects parted. We have types of law parted because of the roles with the identity ground of the branches of each identity ground in it, like overall, and then all the individuals in it, like FBI, CIA, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. They're involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering, foreign and domestic, and with the uses of Facebook, with the uses of the Facebook pages, interbranch and intercampuses, and with sequence shifts. And see now this has this the I never read the book by Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibilities. But this has the sense and sensibilities of each age of boys and girls, of men and women, and being used as a tool for the racketeering method originally. So I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, not a criminal, and I want to stay that way. But and they're I mean, in other words, I don't want to have disrespect for the branches. I'm trying to show you guys are victims, but you guys are victim predators about the law. You guys are preventing religion, which is about the law. You're pretending mandated law means other than it does. You are reading the law without and hiding exceptions to it being criminally exploited and having been. So that was through all kinds of, that was originally instilled. Religion failed. So I'm saying all nations have the same problem: suits and ties. Here each one lies. All rise. In other words, like forging names and switching names, they know they're using the identity of the ground locations. Now, those are people already recorded needing to hide. They're using it now because they're already needing to hide how they use verbal. See, when you have criminally foreign influenced modern nations, you have states and areas, you have database relationships, kept needing to hide from correlation simple means, just extensive. And so that's worse than obfuscated. Involved with this nature of child abuse that is simultaneously with sickly distinctly against each age of factory nature, forsaken in relationship to where positive is through value systems that are using lies for truths. Like, for example, money is about jobs. Or if you don't have a job, but they know they're involved with worse than extortion, the branches of government. Again, but this is completely factual in nature, where they're pretending to perceive things and they're pretending things are recorded and they're valuing it already having been facilitated things recorded fake into databases against everyone. Now, this is Washington, D.C. Pentagon racketeering. Uses a whole bunch of strangers that recorded, confessed, and demonstrated that the wedding of a Chris Walters, and that he has roles with people with Church Street in Old Weathersfield, with a whole bunch of other people racketeering uses of on and off CCSU College, Central Connecticut State University, leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context, leading up to it, per their roles with child offenders of a whole bunch of mixed natures, even sexual, even medical, with kids. Not against me as a kid, but the principal when I was there. See, they have the sense and sensibilities. I never had a conversation with them. The closest to it would be like one time there was one exception was I ordered some things from a Boys Life magazine, and I ended up in the principal's office for a second with that. But see, this is also tied to little subtle things with kids too. Like 3 times I remember. I don't know if she was part of the group, but I don't know. Well, 3 times there was a Mayor Gold had a Debbie Gold. One time, first time she was nice. The second time, it was like time when I was in 6th grade. Now, see, this is relevant because this is tied to one of the campuses of various campuses connected, involved with a whole bunch of mixed natures of racketeering, of other natures of ill things, and uses of systems already, and of uses of people criminals already, and their own kids interbranch because of how they were used for where interbranch is dealing with each age is involved with another nature of traffic of roles with human trafficking. For example, with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering juxtaposed originally and still, because of how they're maintained criminally foreign influence, or it's legalized though. Yeah, because we had left by our founders points of correlation to demonstrate, and our knowledge and experience to demonstrate, which is actually recorded. You know, they have arguments, they have statutes they say they can ignore how they're doing things against us, but they have exceptions to that. In other words, they're supposed not to be forging names, falsifying police reports, stacking databases against people in sustained ways through time, and then using interbranch individual grouped and together roles with sustained racketeering uses of each identity, the ground location. In other words, uses of undercover to hide the line progressions that are criminally foreign influenced. Again, that seeded our intelligence community, people all along Farmington Avenue, where the Harriet Beecher Stowe, Mark Twain House is. We use the phrase too. We're going to see. See, we're going to use the identity ages. Then we'll come back to the writers, and we're going to see the worse than extortion that each position of the human fact was sickly distinctly, and how this method effectively kept and keeps everyone from discerning how sickly non-distinctly, especially in distinctly non-distinctly regarding the stewards of knowledge, what they think we can't discern. Please learn. They're like the sees through all things, the best vaccines, the rest will fall. Will wall. So this is no game. This is a bit. In other words, we if you understand everything. In other words, here and there, math is abridged. Each modern nation, each identity of science, its stewards, if they're standing as a steward of it, and they're in their inclusion with other science, I mean cohesion with the other sciences, it's as, in other words, it's recorded as criminal insidious nature, self-valued as victim predators. So here, forgiveness is in relationship to the organized crime racketeering method, that we don't have free speech to counter. We don't have logic defended by people, by any experts other than one's criminally foreign influenced and delusions rot at the same time. No, because now we have sensibilities with them offensively preventing not to understand that, and sickly. Now, what they do too, they attach me to fake yelling because I caught them involved with this in and outside of the schools, and they forced it with a principal sex offender school recorded, confessed, and demonstrated who got ended up getting caught anyway, regardless what for something similar per the news. Now, but these are also the news involved with human trafficking with interbranch. Former director of the FBI down. He has a lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with other people from my town through time, now adults, that were involved with the people they attached to fake locations with and fake conversations with me. When they're doing that in courts too. This is another nature of human trafficking roles. So what are you going to do? Then you're going to need to pretend that you believe that branch, that titles, that each branch has integrity, that they don't. You said we have the sensibilities. We have another. We have another need. We have a need for another nature of statutes too, because distinctly and non-distinctly, they're preventing people counters to them with all kinds of natures of evidence racketeering, with all private tied to the branch of the government too. Also with Newtown, Sandy Hook, they're involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering with houses in my area. Also, a whole bunch of ways directly and indirectly involved racketeering with co-defendants of and with the families of co-defendants of former director of the FBI in the 2006 case. Also, as people involved with racketeering leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context, and in and out of the Ninth Circuit, proven afterwards there had been, right before the Trade Center attack, shown to the panel of judges, post-dated papers, post-dated to appear late. That proven then led up to the 2006 Connecticut case now. Ninth Circuit is right next to the Trade Center. That was right before the attack. And now, before that, I had already been trying to report, and people have been threatening me in what turns out to be torture method here, and identity racketeering note. A whole bunch of rules of identity racketeering, because then when you're lying about what you're doing, what they're doing with the kids too, we have the experts of the kids, men and women. It's also recorded how the women interbranch originally still distinctly and non-distinctly are kept victims, but they're kept reacting to it where and how originally still the branch of the government never had rights to be criminal and seditious nature. And where and how that might be debatable. What's not debatable is what is recorded actually, is that and how that's why they have themselves distinctly and non-distinctly criminally foreign influence with all parts of the areas, all industries, all non-industry, all locations, all identities of the ground justified are in relationship to fact cheaping nature styles that justify that by premise by justification of the evaluation of premise treatments and of sequence treatments note, and of with the worth and value of others note. Now all originally still through systems originally still criminally foreign influence with private you can't defend and us at the same time. So they have recruited the phenomenon of hate groups and of counter hate groups like black and white, also in collusion with themselves and with the branches of government, again, because they have to hide library, they have to hide from and a value having been kept and all automatically being kept for them, each age of fact, cheaping nature hurt, where and as and how it counts, which is in relationship to correlation nature. So they're pretending things are too scary for kids, for example, because we have the sensibility natures of our of the branches of government of all tied to them, private, military, criminally foreign influence by what was sophistication since before our founders were born already here. Already had a fact keeping nature styles. Oh, England colonized Connecticut. It's more complicated than that. And this is, it's also, you have to admit, otherwise you're just a tool of it. And as victim, because you came through criminal foreign influence sciences here and there, sickly distinctly, to keep how sickly, not distinctly self-valued that way, unrealized by both sides, who tribes. So yin yang cannot be separated, which is always value right to left, to and left to right at the same time, and by one nature that is the order to the final has a so we'll examine even down to, like, there are people that know more about yin yang than me. There are people that know more about the algorithms associated with online, with platforms, coding and things like that, where it's in relationship to value treatment. But but now I'm going to show you how we could know more than people that know more, like people are pretending they're experts on James Madison, and they're using the knowing the most about him to keep worse than obfuscated how he didn't have free speech, and how he had speech forced, and how that is forced glorified when the points of correlation are in relationship to that, and how it doesn't connect with the surface value of the Constitution for that because of that. That's how they're really communicating to us, and how it doesn't connect sub rosa. Now these are and so it can't connect to anything but time impositions on people. No. So if each age of fact should be nature forsaken, it's all right. Okay, say the debatable is the debatable with math as is, and then you go home. But if you deny originally still that math is still abridged, and was he originally still self-valued that way. So we have precedents and statutes. Anyone who can't see it's criminally foreign influence, it's because they already used their identity and positions against everyone. That's where the overt criminal enterprises are coming from. We wouldn't even disagree. So and then we could afford in all of our nations at once, and just and not the forgiveness is for to see what's greater. In other words, this is tactically denatured specifically to keep it self-valued, tactically denatured native actual native relationship to itself, no matter what country you're in, who you are. This is our species nature's of volumes identity, where and as and how we're a semi-nature relationship to it. Simultaneously, we're complete nature, because each person is supposed to see the value of individual values increasing simultaneously, while grouped and while species at the same time is increasing, because that's where we're a semi-nature. In other words, but that's in relationship to the correlation by this other nature of volume that is inseparable from all others, and while it has their value as semi-nature, two ways, making more complete forever nature. So an identity is a forever nature per the ancients, actually. And it's making more and more. We are an unceasing quality of diffusion, making more and more of itself the way it wants it to be, or it's forced from here leads to IDs. That's why we're going to space. There are other motivations, nature's needs and interests that are really why, but that's why we need forgiveness. But one of the important things too is because courts originally and still are telling people shut up, and they're torturing, hurting people, even using drugs to do so, and even using all kinds of racketeering with databases and with each age of fact cheating age, because these are people in collusion. So now they've been doing this. They've been offensive evidence reception and perception crimes. This just reminds with the intelligent with and as the value of the intelligence community of modern nations sharing policing, as I also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with prison stewardships and stuff. Now they have to keep everyone's voice from demonstrating how their styles of lying are involved with sequence racketeering, how they're involved with finite or the finite truths, racketeering, value racketeering, how they're involved with active fact cheaping nature valuing. And this is positive. These are complete natures like us of positive, but simultaneously semi-nature in demonstration of what holds them complete self-generating from even beyond it. Because so this is where heaven and hell came from. We are a quality of diffusion now as semi-memory, as a complete memory, we're the value of its experience. See, but experience is now through a value nature system's tactical ulterior. So we have to understand we have to bring all kinds of natures of simultaneous natures of reliefs. We have to understand that the practicality that goes home, because that's the time, no one gets along to this extent, nobody cares. See, when they say nobody cares, we have that's recorded, that's evidence, because in the media context, or even in theater context of media, no tied to, they have news on those stations. Now those are people that just in this victims only allowed to be victims in the system, only allowed to be success through contrast, or keep your mouth shut, or they're going to just make you not heard, and they're going to pretend just opinions natural, which opinions would not be. Now, that's why they have WFSBs, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with local elections racketeering, right through administrations, as their racketeering roles with inside of outside of courts used for worse than extortion on off campuses of CCSU, Trinity College, UConn, Wesleyan campus. Then they need to hide what from and value kept her correlation nature, science true. They need science, the identity of science itself, other than. They need everyone defending types of styles, and then but other experts you ask about that, which is in relationship. That's to again from off the value of education, and then on and off campuses and layers, and that it is already simultaneously on and off database relationships, because this is facilitating, and having facilitated originally, and still people that don't even know each other kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, the same finite, active, progressive, and identity racketeering lives, and beyond that, and uses of all positions of modern leaderships of every identity of the law as breaching screen and tool, again, in relationship to, like, for example, forced glorification of James Madison, not let his identity theft shown, relented. Our founding father, most, James Madison, still, and they had to hide the extent of their roles, and the extent of the significance of intersciences what is practical with evidence evaluation, the worth of evidence. Now, this is a value relationship conversation again that is required. That's why we have these five natures of positive connected. And so we have like real knave. Oh, that's politics. Oh, it's A, side A, B. One of the reasons that criminal seditious nature could be, which is temporary positive, that is temporary slash lasting generation of more and more negative value nature, especially legalized criminal and seditious nature. See that what did this new? It would with the nature of volume that humanity would stay would only be capable of being of relieving itself, being relieved by itself, and as itself having the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures blamed on other things other than selves, because there needs to react to all that needs to stay. That to all that stays exploited, where sense and sensibilities need to forget that, and just worry about yourselves and your immediate community and things like that, which would be all right if they allow free speech. So we have each identity of the ground again involved with the racketeering method. And so when they say no one cares, because in other words, each identity of the law, they knew that was going to be valued. They're victims, but they're victim predators. So, and to an extent where you can't call up and make a police report because the lie about was recorded and hide it from presidents for how they were motivated needing to. Now, you can't. They'll use mail racketeering. They use the Eastern States Narcotic Drugs Task Force for racketeering with drugs, with people who did this through time as people involved with child offenders too. Further, with the schools, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. But they're hiding those confessions. They're lying about what is actually recorded off the police departments too. Now, see, now they're needing to hide from voices. So what they do too, they'll forge names and switch names, even though they only have one officer named McGee, and they have a whole bunch of officers tied to a Dillon family and an officer Jerry Miller and a Kerr family, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a whole bunch of people with New Britain Superior Court with medical, sexual, drug, and judicial racketeering uses of child offenders and of people with the shared policing of the stores. Also with the DeMoro family, also with what trained state police men and women involve roles and uses of CCSU, with racketeering that's uses of locations next to each school in each town and city. Now, these are the different types of campuses. That those differences are also criminally exploited because this was sophistication before our systems were sophistication. This is how they're using on and off the campuses. And then they have things that are undercover as associated with that. And associated with people calling, okay, this looks suspicious. See, all that is used. Those people are in collusion with us keeping each identity of the ground worse than semi unsafe and worse than indifferent to roles to what is intercities connected. A minority of people that just sound like a whole bunch of names when people need to counter their roles with identity racketeering and with acting outside of courts. Again, within it has and how they're using the identity of the ground locations to prevent people from free speech. Because when they can't follow mandated law, because it would show how they've been reporting, even using reporters even using retired and standing into branch with the media, attach me and little kids and my family to fake locations. These are people that did this with WFSB is involved with Connecticut State Police training of them. They also reportedly gave Mike Tyson um, a degree, which I believe he deserves a lot of ways. But also, I believe a lot of ways, I not believe that they're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. I don't know if he would be, what he would think about it, but it's recorded that CCSU has been using um, that school and him in online policing and their roles coerced from off campuses, from off CCSU's campus, involved with racketeering acts, with on off campuses through time with people with people that are victims. So if they want to make an opinion, then I have to show them as victim predators. That's why we won't put anything in writing too, because of the sequence racketeering. Because the courts already know they recorded themselves, confessed themselves. If you go into a court, they could just lie about what's recorded and use what was already faked recorded because they won't let it told on. They already put all kinds of fake, sick things into databases. Forged with this is the rules with the human trafficking against boys and girls, the sickly distinctly and sickly non-distinctly. These are hurting a lot of girls. Now these have people pretended like real sensibilities offensively because they're using their kids to pretend things, vaccines. Now these are also again roles with each identity of the ground used to hide life progressions, used to hide from mandated law. And now these are uses of this as a nature of volume, not just as theater, as a nature of identity of volume, of value progression that knows it is not science. It is reliant upon sciences and on off campus, the sociology of human behavior, originally still currently foreign influence. Delusions wrought self value roles distinctly and non distinctly in collusion with what really keeps the overt criminal enterprises and then keeps them even needing to not understand themselves then because it's just maintaining styles of liars. So what we need to do, we can do it as pantheism, admitting that and how our nations have this, where math value treatments and logic value treatments, psychology value treatments can't defend themselves and stand free speech because now what they are recorded as on a mass scale and how that was is exploited where it has now accounts too. These are mass crime methods preventing writing in courts originally and still, and criminally pretending other using crime methods by just having we showed a charge with no premises. Sequence racketeering, confessed and recorded, forging names, switching names of officers, bringing officers from different towns into databases, pretending not to realize that. Oh, we're just going to let the courts decide it, though. Then they have the state's attorneys. Then they have foreign and domestic families involved. All evidences no one's looking at. They're making things up. Those are people already involved with racketeering through time, even with grammar schools. Like the sickly distinctly, they use a whole bunch of sick people tied to a Debbie Gold. I don't even know, and she did 2 times. She came at me out of nowhere, screaming, swearing, everything like that. And then I don't know what they did in the background. I never saw it in my grammar school. One time, um I never had a class with him. Chad Casper. Yeah, a whole bunch of people with DMV and Department of Transportation and Department of Motor Vehicles and people associated with that with Old Weathersfield. recorded, confessed, and demonstrated a whole bunch of people tied to a church around the corner from Fox Connecticut News, and the owners of a club, and people on and off Two Rod Highway recorded, confessed, and demonstrated a whole bunch of natures of racketeering uses through time of each age of fact treatment nature as roles with a whole bunch of names associated with former director of the FBI's co-defendants in a tied to 2006 case with the people involved with a recorded pattern of racketeering leading up to before the Trade Center attack, and then and then leading immediately before it, and then leading up to it, in it, and then leading up to it. I mean, since it, with predicate acts with the investigators of it. They also attached me to fake conversations with my father about my father, and fake conversations about the CIA. They used the Leahy family, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a whole bunch of foreign and domestic families associated with jobs like nurses and stuff like that, and locations on off CCSU with the training of people and stuff like that. Recorded, demonstrated, confessed, involved a whole bunch of racketeering with the human trafficking this way, exploitations of attaching kids and people to fake locations, fake words, fake recorded things to Mendez police, to the Maine police. Allison Mulcahy, I never had a conversation with her in my life. I don't know her sister's name. Now, these are people on and off that Two Rod Highway with the intelligence community, with like prison cliques, prison leaderships. They also train on and off CCSU. Now, those people are involved with justifications of identity of the law, fact treatment and value mean fact treatment nature, worth value, determinations, convictions that can't defend themselves and stand free speech with sequence truth, the order of the finite truth, the order of the active truth, order of what is progressively value and what is identity's complete value, where it is simultaneously complete and semi at the same time. That completes us. See, but they have they have the phenomena. They have people locked into jobs where they have social tied to jobs. They have sociology restricted. Now they have the overt criminal enterprises that are off the record because they're not. No one's manning it. They're just the everyone originally and still recorded. You can't defend what they take as their answers to questions like about reparations, and counters to the bad answers are recorded in collusion, and that's maintained by the phenomenon of fake sides, distinctly and non-distinctly, increasing as value to be discerned with our fact treatments. See, but we have they built it to so sensibilities are allowed only to speak for that. So we have collusion between people. See, they have the term white supremacy. We have obligations by each of the branches of government, individually grouped and together, to demonstrate, to explain how white supremacy was. And see, but they're doing this, so they can't. They were made to the victim predator. White supremacy is made as a tool to keep measured, like a nervous system, like a skin to sense. If anyone's going to make proper treatments of the racketeering method that is involved with slavery, which you notice a sustained whole bunch of natures of racketeering, like extortion, torture. Know how torture is not supposed to be allowed. Free speech is not supposed to be denied. That's why is everyone saying, "Oh, no one cares"? I'm not asking to debate people. I'm asking to report how the branches of government use their locations, like the Wethersfield Police Department is recorded having been used by the judicial branch criminally through time. There was no separation of state. And they have been using on-off church locations. Then they use the people, oh, but this is a good guy. That's their evidence. They're just insidious. They also criminal uses of confessions distinctly and non-distinctly a whole bunch of ways. But they're bonded by one that's non-distinctly using confessions for vertical up and vertical down roles with this racketeering method against each age of fact, should be nature forsaken in relationship to each identity of the ground, all gather around where this had originally nothing to do with anybody's nature of industry, nature of evil, any kinds of it, private, overt criminal enterprises. They were all juxtaposed to make styles of liars and of indifferent natures, worse than weaponized, worse than breaching screen employed. So this is why Mao Zedong didn't know that they would steal his identity. That's why they said that we don't want people to write about him. So that's why my theory is why he doesn't want us to write. More than theory, he didn't have free speech because we didn't have the means to it. They didn't have a computer set up. They have each modern nation in a semi-ancient trap, the same exact one. So boxing is fun, and culture is this culture. So they need semi-culture because their semi-culture has criminal ceaseless nature, where it now counts, where value is invisible, but this value is coarse. Because when it comes down to it, that's the only way you can. Now this is about the five semi-natures of positive and how they are complete nature at the same time. I just remind. Then it is further because of how they are semi-nature. This is how one identity is self-generating. By the way, it is semi-nature two ways. One as the Trinity and one as the five, complete, but still semi. So that's why five is like half of complete, which is 10, which is the one, and the zero, which is the nature of volume that's only going to increase. This identity of value progression, another nature of invisible that is bonded with the five semi-natures, within as that identity that the five semi-natures and the simultaneously the three semi-natures of a yin-yang are drawing. So I never read that, but I'll do a video. We'll see. I'm not sure what they say. In other words, they say, I'm theorizing. I can't remember the space. I guess would be omega overall. But I mean, would be yin, which is the feminine, and yang is the masculine. So now this is not just with the physical. So then this is with the Trinity. When Jesus says he is the Alpha and he is the Omega, he's saying there is Alpha, Omega, and then there is a little bit more of a complete nature that will only stay complete, but it's also a semi-nature. So if it stays complete, it is completed by what forces it away from here, Leth of Hadith. If it stays complete here as temporary positive, that's also temporary / lasting positive, then it's being a quality of diffusion. That is as one this identity of value progressions, identity of relationship to itself, that lights the halo. between alpha and omega, A, and A on the left side of it, and W on the right side of it, of the halo of Jesus. For example, on art, they have it online, and they have it throughout the world in museums and stuff like that. They have different spellings of it. See, but this is cipher and decipher because they didn't have free speech. For example, the scientists were all victims adapted as victim predators, whereas now accounts where they didn't even realize they were how they were being exploited, and where they did realize it, and even though it was complicated, too complicated for them to say, that's not even they still don't realize it. All that's juxtaposed. Now one has rows. Sub rosa. This no, so there are a whole bunch of people on off Fox Connecticut News involved with interreligious spots with foreign and domestic medical racketeering and with the policing of the stores in conjunction with the uses of the family members in the branch. Now, see, those are overall truths tied to finite proofs, tied to a recorded pattern of racketeering that has them using database racketeering for themselves and others, pretending not to realize. So then the whole time they've been forging names and switching names, uses of confessions that connect with confessions from the past from strangers. So if you try to talk about it, they're exploiting fact cheating nature, pretending that means you know those others. They that tied to their racketeering uses of how they keep courts with they make problems with kids for all kinds of natures of evil, where they have the right to lie and have and because they and then because those are adults like that, they have their kids involved with that. That was originally instilled. Again, built as a natural volume that is used remotely by a racketeering method that American history is really about. About face, or pace. So what we could do, modern nations, we have to be able to discern what is actually recorded, that and how they are maintenance distinctly and non-distinctly sickly. To keep only distinctly how sickly as is discerned, and effectively kept how sickly non-distinctly they are consciously keeping each individual, each group, and each overall from being allowed free speech. And they're using the sense and sensibilities of groups and of the species conform suits and ties counter sick, all agreeing things like blame out other things like all money or leads. They're letting they're preventing individuals from voice. They're preventing the finite, the lies of the sciences for reasons not debating good or bad or necessary or not. But it's not debatable how they exploit that, and in sustained ways how they're indifferent to it. Oh, no one cares. They want to. They are maintenance to everyone saying that no one cares. That's a racketeering method. And now see, this is knows that we need to say that, so it knows already with these categories they need to have people already pretending they care and who don't care, and that's recorded. And that's recorded how it's misprision criminality as a nature of volume. That is all styles of people, not by accident, to defend themselves if they want to debate the overall tied to the sequence shifts that show this true, tied to the mandated law crimes and crime methods that have prevented me from countering WFSB's racketeering roles with human trafficking. These are also manifest people involved with New York City and with on off the state prison offices, on off the state judicial branch offices, involved with the drugs racketeering right through ages, and right through the doctors and medical contacts that are the only let counters. They've been using that to attach people to fake locations, fake uses of drugs, as interbranch cliques that in relationship to database racketeering, they know this person's of the same age. Their kids, this drug clique with the judges involved with the human trafficking when they were kids for already. They know that this person is not here. They're not going to see that, and they're attaching everyone to fake locations, fake words, fake ties to each other completely, and changing the nature of relationship that everyone has to each other, lying about it. There are people that need reliefs on a mass scale, not by accident. It is not debatable that we have immediate means. So all we need to do is show our species nature of volume, its agreements with and as this this identity of relationship to the ground and Earth's value system actual to itself, which not one nation, modern nation, can claim, and nor could it claim simultaneously what is claimed. Practical in relationship to zoning laws and the pathology of things, and be an expert on our founders without hiding lies, delusions, criminal foreign influences. Again, through time is recorded how they're doing it, how they're hiding those lies, delusions, pretending other. So you see it when you need to report sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive, and other natures of identity racketeering uses of police. Now they forge names and switch names. They have forging names and switching names involved with their roles. Weathersfield police with racketeering uses of CIA and of FBI. Whole bunch of people tied to it on Mr. Abruzzi and to the DeMoro family. The DeMoro family also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with racketeering, but with a Delafair family. Also on off with houses on off the high school, middle school, and with child sex offenders, families involved with other natures of racketeering with them. Other natures of racketeering acts and methods. Uses of military police, foreign and domestic, military families, everyone's kids. See, they're using each age of fact sheeting nature. We knew it was going to keep life progressions to each spot self-value. These overt criminal enterprises are also recorded involved with racketeering with them and with the private originally. Still, you can't defend that and us at the same time. So I just remind. So they have things, good reasons or not, to keep lies, and then they fight about facts. Then that comes down to nature forces it to be about sequence treatments, finite, active, progressive treatments, identity treatments that uses what use of war originally and still things like that. We use the racketeering uses of the sciences, criminally foreign influence, delusions, raw, all those identity, the ground locations. Where they pretend to be about the Constitution is native pure. See, but they want to keep it other, reaching screen, tool and weapon, and worse than weapon. All we need is recording. Yin Yang and Yin Yang and Alpha and Omega, they go together. So we separate the Alpha. You can't separate every body of value can only be more value that, and more each value can only make it won't, because one identity will only stay one complete nature of relationship to itself. So it maintains manifest 2 points of real possession that are in 2 increasing natures of volume with us, as what connects with the rest of its nature. That's with the phenomenon. It's the invention that was here before, and then what being the value of any other invention, and from as being it more and more. That way, the more. Again, 3 ways and 5 ways simultaneously. And simultaneously has one identity's distinct and non-distinct relationship to itself, which is a distinct and non-distinct ways it is semi-nature. Both ways the same exact way, and one way distinctly. And that's the way it is self-generating. And we are this nature of volume, and this as a quality of diffusion, life, positive or negative. And now to teach about how it is first to teach about how we are temporary positive. And now say we have obligations to discern how we are temporary positive as criminal insidious nature or not, and that can't be legalized. Our founders left us to demonstrate how they legalized that and how they self-valued it, how they were involved, recorded with uses of each branch of government, more sickly than most killers, and in collusion with and as what maintains fake sides between all types of gangs, only realized per what is recorded consciously off the ground of education, intercampuses of each age and nature, even including homeschooling, involved with the same racketeering method, effectively having been kept and being kept, needing to hide lipoaggressions, need to hide their actually recorded natures as criminal insidious nature, as what is actually recorded reveals. So we have the reading statutes and laws. The pretending lawyers have rights to do what they don't originally instill. In other words, and they're preventing mandated law by using crime methods of the branches of government recorded criminally, pretending not to realize this, and forging names, switching names in collusion with police forms with other branches of government. Again, these are people involved with racketeering uses of Facebook, interbranch, also with Russians involved with them, other nations, overt criminal enterprises, shared policing undercover, also used in collusion with those criminal enterprises. Whole bunch of medical racketeering. Again, with this recorded consciously racketeering method that stacks names of people needed to be used by individuals needing to counter, where they have police departments in collusion with other branches of government individually grouped together, and where it's tied to how they have each of the databases at each of the age of the campuses involved with racketeering that's connected between them. But everyone missed it because everyone's leaning. Every job is leaning on a type of expert. Now, this originally still bonded all those types of experts, all those identity of the grounds, all those identity of the laws as victims. And with defenses of those identities as only allowed to be tactically pseudo-educated, worse, criminally foreign influenced, worse, the defenses of that, worse, exploitations of that, worse, sustained, worse, the simultaneous nature lost its way, our course, the way of things, boxings. I'm not trying to lead you, species nature. I'm trying to show you guys. Everyone's trying to lead but me. I'm trying to lead this, have led this identity of relationship to the ground has to itself, actually. Logic's actual value. I want that to lead. The rest proceed, but plots and hides, fronts and pretends not to realize the database racketeering only they're valuing, only capable of defending themselves by hiding that. So we need these styles, what they call politics. For example, that one word slash value. If you listen to what I'm saying, this is to show you how this identity is self-generating. So with this algebraic consciousness, we're going to put word slash value. Every word is an increasing nature of volume as value. As value, yin yang is about how the individual, grouped, and altogether values are valued together simultaneously, and it is self generating. So I'll have to look up on YouTube when we learn about more of yin yang. But I want to show before I go into the sciences how it can show how they're telling themselves lies. In other words, about algorithms, about the value of, you know, it's not that complicated this way. And when they make it complicated, they're also mixing in, the perfect world, not just forsaken, but how it's exploited, forsaken, self-valued that way again. So in other words, it's all right if people want to debate using the same old fake sides of issues and sensibilities of people that are only allowed to come through racketeering using each age effect, cheaping nature formerly in collusion with which was off campuses, off the ground of education consciously, on off it in layers. All victim predators went to types of expert recorded. For example, that's why the predicate act is valued simultaneously to the law, wherein as and how the predicate is valued to English, and both of them in demonstration of identity's value. The identity of the verb changes when it's not the predicate. The main verb is the predicate. So it's about identity. The predicate act with the law associated with criminal enterprises, associated with organized crime, racketeering, especially this is again, this is the racketeering method that originally and still consciously juxtaposed a whole bunch of other natures of racketeering as a whole bunch of natures and styles of liars. All victims needed to be about positive. Now, anyway, that's how logic is. You need to sustain positive out of negative. You need to appreciate the negative so you can see where the positive is out of it. Not the way they do it, though. Mean positive by positive's course. Boxings of source alone. Boxings come home. Science sharing identity. So they have each identity, ground, location, each nature of industry, each nature of maintenance too, and of collusion with even where the family members of each people are going to go. If you're an individual, if you have one kid, they're going to exploit that kid that way. With sex now, they're going to exploit that per their roles with how they have been valuing the identity of the relationship, the identity of value that the ground is actually about, which is a value relationship to our active quality of fact treatment nature. Now, see, it is as temporary positive, but it is as temporary positive as criminal insidious nature too. So positive can also be negative. Now, there are proofs that we need to discern positive and negative separate from ground and positive. And ground is not negative. Everything is relationship to one identity that will only stay. Every nation or volume only positive unto itself and as itself. And see, that's again, we have to understand the difference between temporary positive. Because excuse me. Because we have to understand the difference between criminal and seditious nature. Because that criminal and seditious nature is capable of the youngest kids in relationship to forsaken value treatments, like black and white. let alone humanity attached to these values, juxtaposed with them ulterior from their actual value. And now, see, we have bodies that are black and white representatives now in relationship to where people have more and more an increasing obligation not to demonstrate how about that how that is nonsense with sensibilities because they're missing the criminal seriousness nature uses of all roles with that styles of that. We need to, in other words, demonstrate how they're in collusion. There is no justification of what they built, only allowed are capable of being afforded by each nature of wealth and or what they call poverty, but it's way worse than that, as which is actually recorded. So they're pretending we need lawyers in context we don't. When it comes down to the math and things like that, who says we won't? But I'm saying we need now. We have racketeering where we have interbranch with criminal uses of all private. They have not just trade center racketeering and then trade center attack racketeering roles, interbranch, intermilitary in Connecticut, their family members, on and off the state judicial branch offices, a lot with uses of the streets parallel to and all that connected to Farmington Avenue and Harriet Beecher Stowe, Mark Twain House. And again, to Harriet Beecher Stowe with the phrase Uncle Tom and their relationship and uses of the relationship to each other there with that location, Harriet Beecher Stowe and Mark Twain. Now, this is also in conjunction with where and how this is where George Washington had to come to meet the French general right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War in Wethersfield. Now, this is also that area and Church Street, right, connected to it, running into it. And then leading up from that street, it connects to Main Street, Old Wethersfield, all the way to CCSU, right through towns, on and off those spots. See, everyone speaking through others is used to maintain a racketeering. Also, the corner of the Samuel Dix house. Like, there's a whole bunch of people tied to a Joshua Julian and to judges retired and standing of various natures of courts and their family members with roles with that area already involved. Again, with online police racketeering, internetwork racketeering. This is not, you guys are victims. I want to be part of it too. But before I want anything, I need to have my identity defended. I need to have my means to use evidences that are actually proper, the best. In other words, these recorded crime methods' nature is actually recorded. Interbranch, their roles with overt criminal enterprises is actually recorded. Their uses of the stewards of the witness protection program for racketeering with those same overt criminal enterprises from different nations, recorded how self-valuing that so they could pretend to be fake sides, pretend to be a real because of the quantity of people they have, pretending passions and emotions exactly in sequence shifts and finite active progressive lies and identity theft lies and roles self-value pretending for other reasons real or made up, but juxtaposed with what is real actually completely, which is they're being used by the branches of government already involved with this intercampus, interdatabase relationships, database federal crime stacking with databases, human trafficking roles. Now this is what keeps these are those little lacks with the databases and they're acting in and off campuses like a Debbie Gold. Pretend I had a conversation with her before that. How could she get mad at me? Whatever she pretend with that, that's what people used it for. And then now that's relevant because that former retired and standing mayors further involved with racketeering with a whole bunch of people tied to an ILO family. And he's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with a whole bunch of people associated with him. That I never had a class with him. And his sister had a boyfriend at the time. That around the time she asked me to go to some dance that was like a weird halfway dance. It was after my class already graduated, but I stayed back. But it was weird, and her brother went with us. That was like the only time I like one of the only time I ever saw him. And it was like and that was also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated how I know there are people involved with the intelligence community and with their kids. That was used to further racketeering then that's tied to their sensibilities now being exploited with the uses of on and off the campuses. If I go for a jog, they're pretending to perceive things, yelling things out with the people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the predicate acts clicks, with identity theft clicks, with roles with child sex offenders, with untimely deaths connected that brought that up. Other natures of racketeering uses of them. I don't even know them. They're also using confessions that way, intercities, because then now they complicate what someone needs to counter and tell on or get hurt by not telling on it per the law. These are roles with and as real bad sick people. These overtly sick people that are killing everyone in areas. Those areas have recorded the people that are trying to investigate such involved with the racketeering against those areas, against each age of fact treating nature on and off campuses, keeping sensibilities, passions, emotions stupid. This is all recorded. All we need. They're recorded criminally. Needed to pretend they're asking someone else. Oh, that person. They use the pretend people are making conspiracy theories. Look around. This is science. They're pretending people use conspiracy theories. Russians and Americans do that using pretended legitimate evidence reception because we are the experts of evidence reception, physical delusions, criminally foreign influence, and exploited that way. Hear many pray. Now, these are people, again, intermilitary, interstates, worse than interstates, foreign and domestic, racketeering leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context, leading up to and in Connecticut cases. Leading up to it means 3 years. These are people further involved as the ones involved further with the principal, sex offenders campus, and with male and female, white and black judges involved racketeering with white and black military families associated with Eastern States narcotic drugs task force, also worse than war crime rules. Uses of Hartford Hospital, uses of people's names, uses of policing, uses of Facebook pages, the uses of the experts about the behavior of people that they're involved with attaching people with identity racketeering, attach people to fake conversations with themselves, doctors, fake conversations with their nurses, their family members involved racketeering with my area. Whole bunch of people tied to the schools I went to with connections to the federal criminal code defendants of former director of the FBI. Again, leading up to and in the Trade Center attack, criminally involved. And since. Now, these are further intercities, people involved with like people on and off the state judicial branch office, on and off the state prison offices. Whole bunch of people on and off Two Rod Highway, on and off Hangdog Lane, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with racketeering with the intelligence community. Foreign, again, all that foreign and domestic. They never had an identity that was free. They never had an identity that wasn't breaching screening tool. This was entrenched here since before our founders' births. Let them make an opinion about anything of substance. They can't. They need debate without that is recorded. Predators picking the fruits of opinion natures with what they call debate. Again, delusions rot, criminally foreign influence. The identity's algorithm is this: vaccines. So they're preventing people from countering sequence racketeering, and the courts are lying about behavior. They're coaching areas to pretend sensibilities. Now these are people involved with force sustained aggressions, involved with other natures of gun crimes, poison crimes, and sexual harassment, medical harassment, and medical identity racketeering roles, property rights racketeering roles. Theft, racket. We have identity racketeering, identity fraud, identity theft, formally, originally, and still. That's how they keep them criminally foreign influence states and areas, victims, but victim predators, and overt predators. So we need them from the names forging and switching. We need if they want if we need them if they want to play with their extended family members like this Delafair family, the men and women with the FBI, CIA, with New Haven, CCSU involved with this racketeering here, on and off Yukon, whole bunch of people involved with racketeering here. Uses of their doctors, uses of people, their people with badges, use of their roles with judges, people on off the state judicial branch offices, a whole bunch of natures of racketeering roles and uses of these. Fianza family also recorded, confessed, to demonstrate involved racketeering on and off Two-Route Highway. With the Dillon family, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with my new and past neighbors, with racketeering with sex offenders' families, and with identity thefts, with officers forging, switching names, other natures of mail crimes, wire crimes with them, roles with racketeering with AT&T, uses of them, their identity and sensibilities after their victims, because these were kids like Chris Walters, like a Spada family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. See, they used them for confessions to me, per their roles used for database racketeering by probate court judges that are involved with drugs racketeering, with their patients and criminals, and with sick people associated with them and their family members, uses of them too. But everyone's speaking through others criminally because they need to hide sequence. They need to hide from sequence. True, it's revelations. They need to hide from finite. True, the revelations. Active. True, which is revelations to our to see a new way, the way, the timeless way. Would lets this identity guide. Then we can get nations to admit how we're gonna if we get modern nations who will get these pseudosciences to forced to admit the tactically denatured relationship to nature, the native, its identity of relationship to itself. We're supposed to realize it. Excuse me. We think revealed all these seeds actually first. They weren't invented in the lab. The context of the garden were before criminally foreign influence. Criminal foreign influence, human fact-cheating nature demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures in demonstration of it. They did the method. They knew they can make that self-value blamed on other things. Everyone not realizing it. If they made everyone not realize how they were self-valuing, zoning laws means to them, means to everything. Criminally foreign influence, delusions raw, and exploited that way in layers. Prayers, dual. It's time to wake again. Vaccines, behold, be native pure. You don't have to be Native American to understand that now. Not just their physical selves, but our Constitution self. As their value, as everyone's value, as the species, nature, volume, it's native pure. They value being able to make the identity. They value the hurt of the Native Americans. Pseudo help for them, so they could pretend not to realize what's native pure is in demonstration to us. They need to make native something other than it is. Disown the campus Marcius, what species wrought together, revealed together. The 26 sounds of the English language, they have the identity of relationship to itself as an individual does. Because when the identity will only stay complete onto itself. That's why simultaneously the value of other languages grouped are simultaneously value tied to it, which is the value of why we need, part of why we need Latin laws like habeas corpus, habeas certiorari, things like that. I'm not a lawyer. We need free speech, and we need the racketeering that involves lawyers also with the branches of government all privatized to them again, involved with racketeering uses of their criminal foreign influences, their indifference to the exploitation of that, and of juxtaposed the physical delusions and their roles with the crime method, forging names, switching names, branches of government in collusion with overt criminal enterprises, private, and again, lawyers, all difference in collusion, criminal collusion, pretending only legitimately criminally foreign influence per reading of statutes that is having left this out because everyone did the same way. In many pray, vaccine. So we need mandated law followed. We need them to stop using what is timeless to get over on people need to demonstrate them using it as fake where it counts. Like the identity of the worth of a judge, which is timeless value. But more and more it's stayed negative value nature. They're victim predators when it comes to their answers to reparations. They have to teach that it's about reliefs. They have to discern that now that individually grouped it together, we have natures of value and of value systems treatments that can't defend themselves and us from the exploitation of themselves and us from the which is involved with the exploitation of all areas. That's how they keep it, them in collusion. So we have only the species nature of volume, not a place there are land, even though it's owned. Now, if we have we could, people are going to agree to do things they wouldn't do if they're going to have a nature of people on the same page together, and not for some more identity of negative value nature progression, self value forsaken here and there. So whatever. This is weird. You have to see it's recorded how they have needs to be fake sides to get caught for crimes, so they can keep those fake sides fighting, so they could stay fluent with through fake sides, all individual finite ones. The difference is where we're in as accounts, where everything's invisible but still discernible value, where we speak, what's written. So that's why what led up to the Trade Center attack with our side's roles with a whole bunch of other nations, they're maintained here and there through how they have, you know, their roles lying to themselves and others in cases, and really hurting people for lying to them and pretending to perceive people lying when they know they're not, pretending not to realize exceptions. That's also why there are proofs that we need another nature of statutes. That is proof that we need, we need Latin statutes. So saying someone could have the right to write something from in jail, which they won't even give you the right to write something. they'll make you lose whatever you need to write they have the phone. Just because you make a phone call doesn't mean you have the right to speak. How much time are you gonna have? What are the sensibility? You're gonna listen real fast. These are people that also with this racketeering method that doesn't let people know names, and they forge names, switch names. They already have set up. We have people with the same name shared, nicknames that are saying so they can pretend stupid things. Because boxings, we have natures of volume, self-value here and there, criminally foreign influenced, and they're all pretending value other here and there in relationship to them have to defend that. Where we have counters to overtly sick like war, like all the crazy things with elements that can be combined for worse than war, which war is, like poverty is worse than poverty. See, these are semi natures, types. So that sensibility, once you're entertaining that, you're a measured tool. Because now you're gonna entertain defense of what you're speaking, what you when you go on. In other words, eh, with everyone tool blaming with the racketeering method right there, which is the answer, which is part of the answer attached to all questions, is this racketeering method that used color that against everyone. Everyone was a fact human nature slave, including our founders, and layers. So if they tried to fight against part of that, or group things sick about it, or all together, they'd lose anyway. Humanity pray, vaccines. So we just need mandated court, mandated law followed. But they won't do this through ages, through generations, because of the rules with database racketeering, uses of the little boys and girls of each branch of government, all private tied to them. This is again Sandy Hook, Newtown, involved racketeering with judges tied to them, and with police departments, intercities involved with racketeering uses of the agencies. Now, these are people involved with racketeering, therefore also leading up to and with the institution of, in the value treatment, acceptations of, justifications of the Department of Homeland Security. Also, a whole bunch of natures of racketeering roles with the people all along that route, and next to it, that goes by the state judicial branch offices and right into Cromwell. So you have to see what's actually recorded and how they use the sense and sensibilities of each age of fact treatment nature. Lawrence Claybay. I never had a conversation with him. And Eric Burgess confirmed, demonstrated, and recorded, asked for help with a woman. Also then they involved influenced sequence shift, sequence racketeering roles, realized and or not, with courts after, like associated with an officer. I'm not sure if his name is Hunter. That's what he said his name was. It's followed with falsified police reports, uses of Park Street with a whole bunch of people involved, with human trafficking, with various natures of courts, and people involved with a pattern of racketeering leading up to winning the Trade Center attack context, prevented me from reporting with a whole bunch of strangers asked me for help from. Because of their roles, also with confessions from strangers out of nowhere about on and off CCSU when I was a kid. Now these are also people that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. There's a Joshua Stryker, and there are other people from my town who were involved with racketeering uses of Trinity College and of CCSU, and as people involved with racketeering uses of UPS and of locations in my town like mobile gas stations all along routes going into Hartford and going to from my town to CCSU. On and off Paul Manafort Drive through time, they have racketeering uses of what keeps off the ground of education's value and on and off CCSU campuses and layers, racketeering influences of them, as victim predators from off the campus, sustained foreign and domestic military, foreign and domestic training of shared policing of prisons, of interbranch, what they call the intelligence community, involved with identity racketeering. See how Russia's a huge fake side? How America's a huge fake side of sides? Betrayal tribes. See, we have fake. We're supposed to understand individual, grouped, and together. When they're not simultaneously, we're not for individual rights first. So we have to set up. All we have to do is agree, and we can instantly afford a means to infrastructural and means to counter tactically denatured relationship to nature. Means by needs by water, reliefs simultaneously for the natures of industries reliant upon water as standing. We have to change the nature of everything. There's no way to fix it and not value the real causes of negative value, nature progressions, action, nature is blamed on other things, others, and selves. Vaccines. Please follow mandated law. Have them pick one name and sequence into branch. All kinds of natures of medical racketeering and name stacking, switching, forging names, switching names. Doctors indifferent to faking conversations with people, with them. We have a whole bunch of natures of racketeering that are involved. That's how they're involved. Also, criminal uses of the campuses of each age connected. Now there's a Cuddy family also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with forensics clicks involved with the child sex offenders and untimely deaths that are connected on and off Trinity College, especially if made up, and their uses of the force, and of a guy and of an officer who says his name is Darth Vader, involved with racketeering here with New York City, Black connected to Connecticut manifest Justice Department racketeering. But it's also tied to the racketeering uses of Washington, D.C., of the Pentagon, originally and still. Their uses of human vac treatments, human value treatments. This is values course. And it's about these five semi natures of positive, distinctly and non distinctly, as about three, the Trinity's semi natures of positive. Because then connected to that, it's about how it is further unceasingly further about positive or negative. That's not for a sixth nature of positive or negative. That's about what's positive or negative forever nature with the identity that is a little bit more of its complete nature as the phenomena of the only semi nature that could be complete nature at the same time as the form more as the phenomena of a little bit more of itself as the value of everything at once and will only stay that way increasingly. So not only are these simultaneous values, these are simultaneously natures of volume invisible but still discernible, discernibly increasing. Only the extent of it is debatable. Again, but we have such debated offensively with criminally foreign influenced self-valued sciences individually grouped in together criminally foreign influence simultaneously. So they have sensibilities that only experienced debate, argument as logic. Criminally foreign influence delusions are off. I'm not a doctor who delineate their delusions from their criminally foreign influenced souls. Vaccines. Behold, it's time. It's mine. So which nation, which person of which nation will agree? And this is what will guide. All we have to do is admit this. We could say, look, we want reliefs We could show them, we could reveal, we could just agree what's actually recorded anyway. The branches of each modern nation are sick fake sides. They're forced to defend that because their counters to what is overtly sick is the phenomenon of peace. That is self-valued criminal insidiousness nature, or we can legalize it. We're legal criminal insidiousness nature. No, they're not. They're preventing free speech. That's why it's important to understand the racketeering acts of WFSB, influenced by the courts also because of their roles with criminal uses of child campuses. It wasn't from off, and they do it through their uses of identity the ground locations, like campuses, like all identity of like the state judicial branch offices, on off it. They have people stand there so they can pretend to perceive things after they're already recorded and involved with racketeering with those families, like a Fianza family. Recorded confessed, I don't even know them. They're recorded confessed and demonstrated involved with racketeering with people on and off and with their family with on and off the Two Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane where it goes into it and the Brown Turnpike and on and off the state judicial branch with them and with their roles with a Dillon family with them with a whole bunch of nature's racketeering uses of child sex offenders even for their indifference to their roles preventing people free speech, dealing with identity thefts. Their roles with racketeering on and off Fox Connecticut News also. Also recorded, confessed, demonstrated roles with other houses on and off Two Route Highway. Involved with them with the Dillon family, with my new and past neighbors. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with them and with forensics clicks also involved with the racketeering with child offenders through time. And these are people with racketeering uses of the transition from Alca to Rico, where they had overt criminal enterprises, juxtaposed private ones, foreign and domestic military, and all that crazy sick together with that. Involve other natures of racketeering. Also, Local 230 recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with Weathersfield Police, with them with abuses of kids, sexual, medical, and for overt criminal enterprises associated with them, also as their roles, criminal uses of the stewards of the witness protection program, also with the family members of various natures of agencies. Again, criminal uses of the, so they have defenses of identity of the law, speaking for themselves, sickly criminally, victim predators, boxing. I tell us things. So species, nature, or volume. So we could just do this. We just admit I think but okay, we admit everything is unacceptable, and we make a bottom that if everything starts creeping up to that bottom again, we have it set up like a mute, like a nervous system, because this devil has the nervous system where it makes forced self out, like where they use socialism, communism, capitalism, those isms. They're used for fake sides where they're involved with the same nature of racketeering here and there against our own and their own against their own too. So they value those fake sides exploited and they hurt each other. Well, we don't want to hurt each other because they gave up. They never had a chance over here where it counts. Fact, cheaping nature of equality, that's science, true. Always not a denying exceptions. That was prevented free speech originally and still. And that was a nature and method of torture and rolls with it. Justified originally and still. You can't justify that and defend us at the same time. So this is a citizen's arrest. For example, and used to counter interbranch actors lying about when I speak about this. They're pretending passions and emotions that they can't pretend on paper without valuing that, without being using racketeering methods and roles and natures to pretend other. Criminally. Faking, valuing things faked in databases. That's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. It's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated other foreign and domestic police forms are associated with these Mendez police and with the Moro family. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a Mike Roberts, with interstate racketeering with them, with state police, with FBI, federal criminal co-defendants of the FBI were involved with them with racketeering. Former director of the FBI down. Racketeering roles with the uses of Wethersfield Police Department and in the town offices of Wethersfield and locations next to these places. I don't know Mike Roberts. He's also, I barely know him. He's also one of the people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with prison cliques involved, like with these child sex offenders, with other natures of racketeering that are connected through houses in my area. That's how I know about this. That's what brought that up too. They also left out the confessions of one of the leaders of the kid involved with child abuses of such sick natures and methods. Now they're pretending people that don't cooperate with the police and do cooperate criminally because the police are involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering, identity thefts, forging names, switching names, drug crime rolls, formal, informal drugs, crime rolls, other motivations and natures and needs and interests for roles with that, like a MPO Floyd involved with a Jessica Levinsky, and there's a woman tied to him named Lucinda, and he's got his kids recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also people who give him orders or so whatever his family. I don't know if he's in the military or what, but he's involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering with people that. But well, I never had a class with him. He's involved with racketeering with child offenders again with women judges roles. They have other natures of racketeering what needs to hide life progressions, so they're valuing types of crimes with types of experts and as types of crimes where no one's going to make an opinion. So there's where this is where they're exploiting each age of fact should be nature again for sickly distinctly forsaken and missing how sickly non-distinctly that that having been exploited and being exploited and that having been self-valued exploited in the causes of it blamed on other things others and on selves. Like sayings wake set the selves one way alone. Come on. Like saying. Okay, thank you for this important speech for the peoples. So we could just monetize, we could help to afford means to build uses of space where now we start going on other levels and stuff, but we keep it flat too. Nice. We can afford things, forget about it. But only if we do it, we admit. Then we don't do it through the private the way it is. We have to do it through. We have to do it afforded as a religion. We have to get the most out of our money, but will not be cheap at all here. We have to let the identity of grounds, identity of relationship to itself, that could evolve as an identity of relationship to uses of water for things other than vaccines, as told. It can be whole. So the republic for which we stand in its campus system must now resurrect the ancient gaming system, to resurrect the means to counter the racketeering method, preventing free speech, preventing religious freedom, preventing safety, security, preventing uh, uh, means to counter tortures involved with identity thefts, identity frauds, identity racketeering, roles with stacking names of liars and of delusions wrought types of experts against strangers, recorded. That's a method used by this natural volume we found modern nations self-valued as, not by accident. Boxing, be native pure, child tribes. Wake, rise. Lies.